Hey there, YouTube. Once again, we're going to go hop into our Canadian news. Yeah, Lenny's still here. We're going to hop into our Canadian news. Just one quick little clip, just kind of a recap of the Freedom Convoy protests. And, you know, I'd also like to point out some of the deficiencies in this journalist report as well. So let's go ahead and jump on over to that. This is a report, I think, by CBC. Oh no, by Global
A truckers'
News.
convoy rolls into the nation's capital.
One of the biggest stories that I've covered in my career.
The trucker protest reached its final destination, with anger toward reporters boiling.
You should be embarrassed to be a journalist!
And at times it was just absolute chaos. Absolute chaos.
Hold the line, guys! Hold the line!
How did it get to this? You know, why didn't something happen earlier? Could this have been avoided?
A weekend of this continued Monday. Blaring horns, streets blocked by vehicles on Parliament Hill and into the downtown core.
We lived this story for 3 weeks, day and night, in minus 20-degree weather.
Every single person in that parliament resign, or they end all of this narrative and drop it. That's what I want to see.
There are 6 convoys.
Yeah, and that wasn't isolated, so it's kind of hard to hear what he's saying with the fucking music blaring. But he's basically calling for the Canadian Parliament to be dissolved, and for everyone to quit, and for the entire government to retire. I guess it's just he wasn't the only one making those claims. There were leaders of the convoy who were making those claims. Thank you, Bladen. I appreciate you looking out for me. You want to give me a free sample, like a free month of your service? I'd love to see how well your service works. If you give me a free month, that'd be great.
Resign, or they end all of this narrative and drop it. That's what I want to see.
They end all of this narrative of what? Vaccines work, wear a mask. Is that the narrative that was just so offending you?
6 convoys, each from different parts of the country. Some are already here, some are on the way. Police have been in close communication with convoy captains, all with the aim of a peaceful demonstration.
This is not your typical protest. This was an occupation, and it was obvious from the very beginning when I saw that people were not going to go anywhere.
Can you imagine if you or I parked a vehicle in front of the West Block of Parliament Hill?
According to train regs, yeah, there was never a vaccine mandate. People were never forced to take a vaccine in Canada. I live here. We were never forced to take a vaccine. Never. Government never told me I have to do this.
Took all the wheels off, lit a fire to stay warm, and started serving food. How long would that last? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? This went on for 3 weeks.
Yeah, and that's a great point, going back to what I was saying about the Capitol Police here, but at least, this report is talking about how there was clear bias coming from the police.
And started serving food. How long would that last? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? This went on for 3 weeks.
This week on the West Block, protesters bring their fight against COVID restrictions to Ottawa.
As we were
Zio Duke, I do think that there was some government employees and there was a law or some kind of rule passed that medical professionals do need to be vaccinated. But in terms of a government mandated vaccine program, you have to take this vaccine, Trudeau is forcing you to do that. That was never, no. Yeah, those are schools have been mandating vaccines since before you were born. I'm sure of that. You're probably what, 20, 30? And employers are private entities that are allowed to do as they wish. Last time I checked, unless you don't believe in capitalism. Is that the case?
recording that first weekend, all you could hear were the truck sounds of the horns right through the studio, bleeding through the studio.
And you can probably hear it on the streets below. It has been a weekend like few others.
It was a very tense environment to walk into, especially those of us who had a camera. I think for camera operators especially, they were that much more visible in the crowd.
Zio Duke, that's not entirely true. Once you got natural immunity, people who are quadruple vaxxed are still getting COVID. I mean, having less protection against specific variants, but catching older variants of COVID doesn't make you more immune to newer variants of COVID.
Told lie after lie after lie.
I'd never seen that level of hate directed at us. I called it was hate wrapped.
So cook your food at home.
The news is lying to people.
Cook your food at home, bud.
You guys are lying. I do not understand. I do not understand how you as reporters and as new anchors
InfoWars
can sit behind
says
the
it all.
desk and tell people lie.
American-style fascism, American-style MAGA politics was what this convoy was about. This was the birth of the Canadian MAGA movement. It's not saying it is a mandate is just as intellectually honest. I think it is complicated. You're trying to justify these people who are calling for the end of the Canadian government as somehow justified in what they believe. I mean, they're probably wearing InfoWars clothing. They're completely misinformed, and I'm sure PVK, you don't believe in the effectiveness of vaccines. Sounds like you maybe agree with Zeo Duke over here that we should have all just caught the deadly virus, and then we would have had natural immunity. Right. That's completely outside of the scientific recommendations. I'm not a scientist on immunology, so I'm going to listen to the experts on that one. Oh yeah, you listen to the experts. Yeah, I'm a pureblood. Yeah, okay. You're a pureblood on a respirator. It's not impressive.
3 questions were always asked: who do you work for? How do you sleep at night? And when are you going to start telling the truth? Those were the 3 questions we always got asked. And it wasn't being asked in a nice way.
It was hard to convey,
Too bad.
sometimes. The image that people would see of this party atmosphere, but the reality when you're out there on the street was very, very different.
Businesses near Parliament Hill, including Ontario provincial liquor stores, would not even open their doors Sunday after protesters the night before verbally and physically assaulted staff for trying to enforce the very public health rules on mask wearing and vaccine passports that the protesters are here to overturn.
Zeo Duke, what are your qualifications and links for that statement?
One group stormed a nearby shelter, assaulted a security guard, and stole meals that had been prepared for the homeless.
This was the first time when a news team that I've been a part of has had to have regular security.
Do the truth instead of lies.
I mean,
I'm not used to
it's interesting, PVK, that you say I'm the one making assumptions when I'm the one who's listening to experts, scientists, doctors, who actually study viruses, how they spread, how to prevent them, and you're just repeating bullshit from alcoholics who wear InfoWars t-shirts. So I think it's really funny that you're saying I'm making assumptions when the people that I'm listening to are literally top class world experts in the field, and you're just some jackass. And I do understand this, appeal to authority nonsense, but this is science. This is science. Also, we've what 2 years now people have had vaccines. When are we going to start dropping dead? When are we going to start dropping dead, huh? We still got you fanatics out here questioning the efficacy of vaccines. So, it's really funny to me as well that the people that are criticizing vaccines have vaccines in their fucking blood. Because you're vaccinated against polio, you're probably vaccinated against chickenpox, vaccinated against all kinds of shit. But now we have a problem with it. It's so blatantly fucking political. It's laughable. It's laughable. This isn't about government overreach. This is about you desperately grasping onto something, trying to justify pre-existing notions about wokeism taking over your world.
Going out with a security guard to be able to be there to protect us. This was completely different from anything I'd ever experienced.
Many people seem convinced that we were out to distort what they were saying, which is not at all how we do our job.
Our job
That's
is
not
to
true.
report the news and to tell the
No, that's not true. There was definitely bias when it came to coverage. of the protesters.
So I think we tried to do that as best we could under these really challenging and difficult circumstances and situations.
This trucker family has been parked in.
Now, PVK, you're new here, but when this was happening, I did have a debate about vaccine mandates, and I disagree with the government mandating a vaccine. And my solution to the problem of the fact that grocery stores, restaurants, and all these other places, were basically theaters, all these places were functionally banning you from entering if you didn't have a vaccine. I did argue and believe that was totally unsustainable. That's not really going to work. It's okay as a temporary measure to slow down infections, it was extremely effective at doing that, but it's not okay as a permanent solution to the problem. The fact is that it was temporary. The restrictions were removed. The restrictions were removed as soon as possible. So I blow up on people like you because you're pretending like it was an assault on your liberties. And you're going to the grocery store. You don't need to be vaccinated right now to go to the grocery store. You don't need to be vaccinated to go to the you don't need to be vaccinated to do anything right now. All these restrictions that people like you were fear-mongering on have been lifted, and you're still pretending like it's an assault against your liberties when it wasn't. It was very temporary. It's all gone. COVID's still spreading like a motherfucker. Right? So stop pretending like it was some assault on your fucking liberties. It's disingenuous.
Ottawa for 13 days with their 5-year-old.
There's not a parent down here that would jeopardize the safety or the health of their child. We brought them down here so that they can be proud of the moment.
There is more than one point of view. So we listened, we tried to reflect the both sides of the story and all sides of the story in our broadcast and online coverage.
We were right on the front line of the protesters when the police were moving in by the Rideau Centre, and I'll never forget that moment for the rest of my career as a journalist, because it was, you felt like that's exactly where you needed to be to tell the story properly, and yet being very aware
Thank you for the follow, Kyle.
Of that situation and just how hostile and aggressive things were.
Now you have all these additional people who have come here today. And you got to remember that yesterday the police told people not to come to the community. They said that people should not, in fact, come because there would be problems. And they tried to cut off access here by virtue of checkpoints.
Look, and what this is the theme for the stream today: knee-jerk reactions, like psychological triggers. Like you hear vaccines, you think, oh, mandates. It was temporary measures that were lifted as soon as possible, and you're still like you hear vaccine, and you're like you Pavlov's dog. Oh, mandates. There wasn't a federal mandate. I do agree, though, but my solution to the problem of these restaurants and theaters and everywhere else checking your vaccination status, I felt like you should have had the ability, if you didn't want to take the vaccine for whatever superstition that you had, if you didn't want to take the vaccine, I felt like you should have been able to because we had the vaccine pass, right? I feel like you should have been able to Lenny, thank you for supporting garbage. You got you got the beanie. That's right. But no, back to what I was saying. I feel like you should have been able to take a test, right? And then receive some kind of 48-hour pass or 24-hour pass, so that even though you're not vaccinated, you can prove that, hey, I don't have the virus. I'm not going to be spreading it. Can I go live my life? I'm okay with that being a temporary thing, so that the millions and millions of infections are reduced and the hospital beds aren't filling up with children and old people who are desperately gasping for air. I'm okay with that being, because I do think the rollout of of the vaccine being checked and your vaccine pass, I felt like that was really rushed and it wasn't really well thought through. Because, yeah, there were a bunch of people that had stupid superstitions for one reason or another. And there was like a very small portion of people that had a legitimate reason. Because there are people who have legitimate reasons why they can't take vaccines. I felt like they were completely disregarded in that. And I feel like if those people had an opportunity to get some kind of, like I said, 24-hour pass, you know, you do a little app, you do the test, you know, okay, yep, you're good. Here's your QR code. So I do think that it could have been, you know, these restrictions, these temporary restrictions could have been better thought out and implemented better. I'm not defending that. But once again, the knee-jerk response, you hear vaccines, you think mandate, and that's just not how it went down. Right? People clutching their liberty pearls, right? Oh no, how dare the government do something to save literally millions of lives? Literally millions of lives were saved. So I'm just tired of it. I just tire of it. Anyway, thank you, YouTube. Have fun. Link in the description. Check out the stream.